Writer-director Brent Coate brings us Possessions, and this is starring Clive Standen. For all you Vikings TV series fans out there, he of course played Rollo in that series and also played the lead in the Taken TV series. So here he is, the lead of this possession haunted movie, and it's a haunted self-storage facility is the subject of this movie. So we have Clive Standen's character. He and his young son are moving to this new area, and they have purchased a self-storage facility that was kind of going cheap because the owners died suddenly. So they're basically purchasing it as is, with customers already in there and the business already up and running. Now, the movie has this kind of setup where we learn that the character that Clive Standen plays, his wife, had been killed in a car accident that may have been his fault, and they're kind of going there for a kind of fresh start. But this self-storage facility may be the site of some type of paranormal activity that may have predated this now couple of people who have bought it. And what will happen? Well, you'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss. There's actually been a few movies that are kind of horror films based in or on a self-storage facility. And one thing you may not know about me is that's actually what I do for my day job. I actually run a self-storage facility. So there you go. And I can tell you from experience, these places can be a little spooky, and we sometimes do find odd things. That's all I'll say. Anyway, let's talk about what I think works in this movie's favour. So this movie is a slow burn. It's very much about building up the tension, the atmosphere, a mystery about what has actually happened before Clive Standen and his son's character actually have got there, because something has happened, something nasty, something supernatural, and it's now affecting these people, particularly the young boy. So it's very much this is something that's been going on for a while, and I think the movie does do a good job of showing you this kind of large facility, this empty space, which is just, for the most part, not many people there, or if any. And it gives it this kind of eerie loneliness where we have this kid just riding around on his bike, and we just kind of hear the wind, and we see the kind of the wind blowing and the kid's kind of longish hair, and it just kind of feels creepy. It's very good, like things like sound design, where I think they have emphasised this sort of cut-off nature of this particular self-storage facility. So I kind of quite like that. The movie is also deliberately slow in regards to dealing out what has actually happened. It gives you little clues peppered throughout, but there is this growing sense of danger that is happening, where we as the audience are learning with these characters the danger that they're potentially in, and what could actually become of it. We've also got Yardley Smith here as a sort of psychologist who is treating this young boy after the death of his mother, and she is kind of quite aware that something is not right in this particular vicinity. The movie definitely has an air of spookiness, and if you like a kind of a slower burn spooky movie that relies a lot on atmosphere rather than kind of visual kind of gore or kills and things like that, then you may enjoy this movie's slow burn approach. And I've got to say, although somewhat subdued, I quite like the kind of the performances here from the characters. Clive Standen's character seems like a very broken man, but still a man who's trying to do the best for his son. So I quite liked his sort of character, because I felt like it's kind of relatable. So I did enjoy that. So what doesn't work in this movie? The problem I feel with this movie, it's too concerned about what's happened in the past and doesn't really tell you what's happening now. So this movie's bulk of its runtime is characters finding out what has happened before they got there. And I'm thinking, why not just make a movie about that then? because this movie is constantly looking at characters, particularly Clive Standen's character, or the young boy, or the psychologist, talking or finding out things, referring to things that have happened in the past, without really much forward momentum in the current storyline. So it feels like an odd movie to make, because why not just make the movie about what happened previously? Because quite frankly, that seems more interesting. More happened. So it's almost like this film is referring to other things that have happened rather than telling you a story about the current characters. So that makes the story a little dull. Now, I've mentioned it's a slow burn movie, but really it's very slow, because we don't really get a huge amount of actual narrative with the current characters. We get a little bit, but it is, as I say, it's mostly looking at the past. So that becomes a little bit of a problem. We don't really see much on screen. Now, okay, so this movie is very much a kind of an atmospheric movie. It's very much just trying to have this eerie atmosphere. But when we do have these more supernatural occurrences, I think you might get a little bit disappointed, because, you know, we see someone entering a storage container, for example, the door shuts, something's happened in the container, and then we go back in and we see the aftermath. We don't see what's actually happened. So even though this movie does have a little bit of overt horror elements to it, we don't really see what is kind of going on. And this movie's very much telling you rather than showing you. And film being a visual medium, this is not the time for that, unfortunately. As I've mentioned, I think the acting is solid, but they're not exactly dynamic performances, I have to say. And it's all very much people talking in soft tones and being a bit depressed. And it's kind of not really a thrilling movie in any way. And although I think the performances are good, again, you just feel there's not a huge amount of character arc in these guys. They just seem to be somewhat monosyllabic, to be brutally honest. And we do get some interesting little sub-characters here. So Yardley Smith, we get the kind of this priest. But again, I don't feel like the characters are constantly referring to things that they've done. This therapist had a previous patient who was another son of someone who worked there, and the priest had done something else with someone else in this park. So it's very much, I'm just obsessed with what has happened before. So the movie is just a little bit dull, to be honest. I don't think it's a badly shot film. I think it does capture this spooky atmosphere, certainly over, you know, that's how it comes across in the film, even though, like, as I say, I work there, to me it doesn't really, I don't notice things like that, but so I know some people do feel like that. So but it's not a lot, really. I mean, this movie really needed to focus a little bit more on the current storyline rather than being too kind of talking about the past movies, or make the past movie, make the film that concentrated on the characters before this current couple. So it's a little bit of a below average film for me, but it's not a badly made film, it's just not particularly interesting. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.